My name is Phoenix, and at 32 years old, I never expected both my brother and my fiancée to betray me. Adam borrowed my Bentley GT, claiming he needed it to impress a client. The truth: he was taking Jessica, the woman I planned to marry, to a luxury resort behind my back. Their deception crushed me, but fate had other plans when they wrapped my $200,000 car around a tree. Now they are both in hospital beds, drowning in medical bills, begging for my forgiveness and financial help. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Hit that like and subscribe button to join me on this journey of betrayal, karma, and difficult choices. Growing up in Seattle with my younger brother Adam was never easy. Our parents worked multiple jobs just to keep food on the table and a roof over our heads. As the older brother, I took it upon myself to protect Adam from the harsh realities of our financial struggles. While other kids were enjoying their weekends, I was mowing lawns and shoveling snow to earn extra money. Some of that went to help with household bills, but I always made sure Adam had lunch money and decent clothes for school. Despite our challenges, I excelled academically. My hard work paid off when I received a full scholarship to the University of Washington to study computer science. Those 4 years were transformative. While balancing classes and part-time jobs, I developed a passion for cybersecurity. My senior project caught the attention of several tech companies, but instead of accepting their job offers, I took a risk and founded my own tech security company, Secure Shield. The first 2 years were brutal. I lived in a tiny studio apartment, surviving on ramen noodles and coffee, pouring every cent I earned back into the business. Adam had dropped out of community college by then, bouncing between retail jobs and complaining about how unfair life was. Still, when he needed money for rent or to pay off credit card debt, I was there for him. By year 3, Secure Shield had landed its first major client, a regional bank that needed to upgrade its security protocols. That contract changed everything. Within 5 years, I had expanded to a team of 40 employees, serving clients across the country. The money started flowing in, and I finally allowed myself some of the luxuries I had always dreamed of. The Bentley Continental GT was my first major indulgence. I still remember the day I drove it off the lot. The smooth purr of the engine, the butter-soft leather seats, and that new car smell that seemed to whisper, "You made it." It was more than just a car to me. It represented every obstacle I had overcome, every night I had stayed up coding until sunrise, every risk I had taken. My personal life had taken a back seat to my professional ambitions for years, but that changed when I met Jessica at a charity gala for children in foster care. She was stunning in a deep blue gown, her blonde hair cascading over her shoulders, but what caught my attention was her passionate speech about creating opportunities for underprivileged youth. We connected instantly, talking, until the venue staff began stacking chairs around us. Our romance was a whirlwind. Jessica was smart, ambitious, and seemed to understand my dedication to my company. She worked as a marketing executive and had her own busy schedule, which made the time we spent together all the more precious. After 18 months of dating, I proposed during a hot air balloon ride over Napa Valley. When she said yes, I felt like the luckiest man alive. We moved into a luxury penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Seattle skyline. Jessica transformed the space with her impeccable taste, creating a home I was always eager to return to. After long business trips, I thought my life was finally complete. I had the career, the car, the home, and the woman I loved. Little did I know that the foundation of my happiness was built on shifting sand. Adam had always been somewhat jealous of my success, making snide comments about my work ethic or dismissing my achievements as luck. I chose to ignore these red flags, chalking it up to sibling rivalry. When he was fired from yet another job, I offered him a position in the IT support department at Secure Shield, despite my HR director advising against hiring family. Adam had a degree in marketing, but I knew enough to get him up to speed for the role. I paid for his training courses and personally mentored him during his first months. My employees whispered about nepotism, but I believed in second chances, especially for family. The pattern of bailing Adam out continued. When he totaled his car after driving home drunk from a bar, I paid for the repairs. When he got evicted for throwing loud parties, I covered his security deposit for a new apartment. I was his safety net, and he had become accustomed to falling without consequences. Looking back, I should have noticed the subtle changes in Jessica as well. She began spending more time at the gym and going out with friends I had never met. Our intimate moments became less frequent, with Jessica claiming exhaustion or headaches. When I suggested a weekend getaway to reconnect, she would find excuses about work deadlines or family obligations. I was too busy growing my company to recognize these warning signs for what they were. The opportunity to expand Secure Shield into the Asian market had been on my radar for months. When a major Singaporean bank expressed interest in our services, I knew this could be the international breakthrough we needed. The initial meetings were scheduled for a full week, requiring me to be overseas and fully focused on making the best impression possible. 2 weeks before the trip, I suggested Jessica join me. We could extend the stay for another week, explore Singapore together, maybe even hop over to Bali for a few days. To my disappointment, she immediately declined. "You know I cannot just abandon my clients, Phoenix," she said, not looking up from her phone. "Besides, you will be in meetings all day. What am I supposed to do alone in a foreign country?" I tried to explain how important this was, how it could be both a business triumph and a romantic adventure. But Jessica remained unmoved. She promised to make it up to me when I returned, suggesting a weekend at our favorite mountain resort. 3 days before my departure, Adam called. His voice had that familiar tone, the one he used when he wanted something. "Big bro, I need a huge favor," he began. "I have a date with this amazing woman. She is way out of my league, and I need to make a killer first impression." I knew what was coming before he asked. The Bentley. My pride and joy. The car I rarely let anyone else drive. "Just for one night, Phoenix. I swear I will be super careful. No drinking, no speeding, nothing. I just want to pick her up in style. Take her to that new rooftop restaurant downtown, then drive her home. Keys back to you by morning." Every instinct told me to refuse. The Bentley was not just transportation. It was symbolic of everything I had worked for. But Adam had been doing better at work lately, and I wanted to encourage his progress. "Fine," I reluctantly agreed. "But I am serious, Adam. One scratch and you are paying for it, understood? You are the best. I will treat it like it is made of glass, promise." I left the spare key with my building concierge for Adam to pick up. As I packed for Singapore, I pushed away the nagging doubt in the back of my mind. This was my brother, after all. Despite his flaws, he would never intentionally hurt me. Or so I thought. The first day of meetings in Singapore went exceptionally well. The bank executives were impressed with our presentation, asking thoughtful questions about implementation and security protocols. That evening, I tried calling Jessica to share the good news, but she did not answer. I left a voicemail and sent a text, assuming she was busy with clients or perhaps at the gym. My second attempt to reach her the following morning went straight to voicemail. This was unusual, but not alarming. When she finally called back that afternoon, her voice sounded distant, almost hurried. "Sorry, I missed your calls. Work has been crazy," she explained. "How are the meetings going?" Our conversation lasted barely 5 minutes, with Jessica claiming she had another call waiting. I pushed aside my disappointment and focused on my upcoming presentation. That evening, I received a text from Carlos, a friend who owned a high-end restaurant in Seattle. "Just saw your brother with some woman at Le Cirque, looking very cozy. Bentley parked out front. All good." I replied casually that I had lent Adam the car for a date thanking Carlos for keeping an eye out. But something felt off. Why would Adam take his date to Le Cirque? That was one of the most expensive restaurants in the city, far beyond what he could afford on his IT support salary. And who was this mystery woman? The next 2 days brought more suspicious signs. Jessica remained elusive. Our conversations brief and superficial. She stopped asking about my meetings, or when I would return. When I checked our shared credit card account online, I noticed charges at hotels and restaurants around the city, places we usually visited together. The amounts suggested she was not dining alone. Then I remembered the GPS tracking app connected to the Bentley. I had installed it as a security measure, never thinking I would use it to track my own brother. With growing unease, I opened the app and reviewed the recent locations. The car had been to Jessica's office, our favorite beach spot, and last night to a boutique hotel on the outskirts of the city. The Bentley had remained in the hotel parking lot from 11 at night until 9 the next morning. My stomach twisted into knots as the pieces began to fit together. The unavailability, the evasiveness, the strange locations. I did not want to believe what seemed increasingly obvious, but I could no longer ignore the evidence. I called my assistant and asked her to book me on the next flight back to Seattle, claiming a family emergency. I did not inform Jessica or Adam of my early return. The 13-hour flight gave me ample time to review the facts and prepare for what I might discover. Part of me still hoped for an innocent explanation. But deep down, I knew. As the plane began its descent into Seattle, I steeled myself for what lay ahead. If my suspicions were correct, I was about to confront the two people I trusted most in the world about the ultimate betrayal. The thought made my heart race and my palms sweat. But I had built a company from nothing, overcome countless obstacles. I would face this challenge with the same determination. The taxi dropped me off at my penthouse building around 2 in the afternoon. The concierge greeted me with surprise, clearly not expecting my return for several more days. I forced a smile and made small talk as I collected my mail, not wanting to betray my inner turmoil. When I entered our apartment, the first thing I noticed was the silence. Jessica's presence usually filled our home with energy. Whether she was taking calls, playing music, or simply moving about. Now it felt hollow. In our bedroom, I found small signs of hasty departure. The closet door was ajar, with several empty hangers where Jessica's favorite dresses should have been. Her travel toiletry bag was missing from the bathroom. The half-empty coffee cup on her nightstand suggested she had left in a hurry. I pulled out my phone and checked the Bentley's location. The car was currently parked at the Four Seasons Hotel downtown. My heart sank even further. That was where Jessica and I had spent our first anniversary. Without allowing myself to hesitate, I ordered another taxi and headed to the hotel. During the ride, I cycled through emotions: shock, denial, anger, and a deep, searing pain. The taxi driver must have sensed my mood, as he did not attempt conversation beyond asking for the destination. The Four Seasons lobby was busy with tourists and business travelers checking in and out. I walked straight through to the terrace restaurant that overlooked the outdoor pool area. And there they were. Adam and Jessica sat at a corner table, their chairs pulled close together. Her hand rested on his arm as they laughed at some shared joke. She wore a white sundress I had bought her for her birthday. He was wearing designer sunglasses I did not recognize, probably purchased with the company credit card I had foolishly provided for business emergencies. I stood frozen, watching them for nearly a minute before either noticed me. It was Jessica who saw me first. Her smile vanished, replaced by wide-eyed shock. She whispered something to Adam, who turned and spotted me. Rather than showing guilt or shame, his expression morphed into something like defiance. My feet carried me to their table almost automatically. The restaurant noise faded to a distant hum as I focused entirely on the two traders before me. So this is the important client meeting. My voice came out steadier than I expected. And your work emergency? Jessica recovered, first straightening in her chair. Phoenix, you are supposed to be in Singapore. Clearly. That made it convenient. For both of you. Adam leaned back, an unsettling smirk playing at his lips. It was bound to happen eventually, bro. You were always too busy for her. Too busy building a company. Too busy giving you a job you did not deserve. Too busy paying for your mistakes. The anger was rising now, threatening to overwhelm my composure. How long has this been going on? Jessica looked around nervously at nearby tables. This is not the place for this conversation. I disagree. This seems like the perfect place. You both clearly enjoy being seen here. No need to hide now that I know. Adam stood up, positioning himself between Jessica and me, as if I might physically attack her. The gesture was so absurd, it almost made me laugh. I had never raised a hand to anyone in my life. Look, Phoenix. He began, his tone condescending. These things happen. Jessica and I connected on a level that you two never did. We did not plan this. Give me the keys to my car. I extended my hand palm up. What now? We are in the middle of lunch. Keys. Now. Jessica finally spoke again. Phoenix, you are overreacting. We need to talk about this like adults. Like the adults who went behind my back. Who betrayed my trust. Who used my car, my money to conduct their affair. I was aware of other diners watching now, but I no longer cared. The engagement is off, Jessica. The job is gone, Adam. Now give me my damn keys before I call the police and report the car stolen. Adam fumbled in his pocket and produced the Bentley key fob, slapping it into my palm with unnecessary force. You always thought you were better than me, he hissed. Big shot Phoenix with his fancy company and expensive car. Well, guess what? The one thing you really cared about besides yourself I took. How does that feel? I pocketed the keys and looked between them. They deserved each other, these two selfish, entitled people. Find your own way home, I said. And Jessica, you have until tomorrow to remove your things from my apartment. With that, I walked away head high despite the humiliation burning in my chest. I made it all the way to the parking garage and into the driver's seat of my Bentley before the dam broke. Tears blurred my vision as I gripped the steering wheel, gasping for breath against the pain crushing my chest. After several minutes, I managed to collect myself enough to drive. I headed straight to William's house. William had been my friend since college. One of the few people who had believed in my business idea from the beginning. He took one look at my face when he opened the door and knew something was terribly wrong. They were together. Was all I could say before the emotions overwhelmed me again. William pulled me inside away from curious neighbors and listened as I poured out the whole story. When I finished, he did not offer false reassurances or tell me everything would be okay. Instead, he poured 2 glasses of whiskey and said exactly what I needed to hear. You did not deserve this, but you will get through it, and I am here for whatever you need. That night, I turned off my phone and stayed in William's guest room, unable to face returning to the penthouse with its memories of Jessica. Sleep evaded me as my mind replayed signs I should have noticed, conversations that now held new meaning in light of their betrayal. By morning, I had made a decision. I would not let them see me break. I would rebuild my life just as I had built my company from nothing. I took 3 personal days from work, something I had never done before. My executive team could handle the Singapore client follow-up without me. I needed time to process what had happened and figure out my next steps. I instructed my assistant to hold all calls except absolute emergencies and declined visitors, including well-meaning friends who had heard rumors about the breakup. William checked on me daily, bringing food I barely touched and updates from the outside world I was temporarily avoiding. Jessica had cleared her belongings from the apartment while I was at William's house, taking only what was legitimately hers and leaving her key with the concierge. Adam had called the office repeatedly, but no one would put him through. On the fourth day of my self-imposed isolation, I was staring blankly at the television when a breaking news alert caught my attention. There had been a serious accident on the coastal highway. The reporter stood in front of a chaotic scene of emergency vehicles, their lights flashing against the darkening sky. Behind me is what remains of a luxury vehicle that witnesses say was traveling at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour before losing control on this dangerous curve. 2 occupants have been transported to Seattle General Hospital with serious injuries. The identity of the victims has not been released, but the vehicle is registered to a prominent local businessman. The camera panned to the wreckage, and my blood ran cold. Even mangled beyond recognition, I could tell it was a Bentley Continental GT. My Bentley. But that was impossible. I had the keys. I checked my pocket to confirm they were still there. Before I could process this information, my phone rang. The screen showed an unfamiliar number with the Seattle area code. "Is this Mr. Phoenix Kingsley?" a formal voice asked when I answered. "Yes, this is he. This is Officer Daniels with the Seattle Police Department. I am calling about your vehicle, a Bentley Continental GT license plate, SHLDCEO. It has been involved in a serious accident on Route 101. That cannot be possible. I have the car keys right here." "Sir, are you saying the car was stolen?" "No, I lent it to someone previously, but I got it back days ago." My mind was racing. Who was driving? The driver has identified himself as Adam Kingsley. He claims to be your brother. The passenger was a woman named Jessica Taylor. Both have been transported to Seattle General Hospital. We will need you to come down to the station to answer some questions. Adam and Jessica. In my car. But how? Then it hit me. The spare key. I kept it in the desk drawer of my home office. Jessica knew where it was. They must have taken it before she moved out. Within 30 minutes, I was at the police station explaining the situation to Officer Daniels. No, I had not given permission for them to use the car today. Yes, Adam was my brother. Yes, Jessica was my former fiancée. No, I did not want to press charges for unauthorized use, at least not yet. After answering their questions and signing several forms, I headed to Seattle General Hospital. Despite everything I needed to know, they were alive. The betrayal still stung, but I did not wish them physical harm. The emergency department was chaos staff rushing between rooms, family members anxiously waiting for news. I approached the information desk, stated my relationship to Adam and Jessica, and was directed to the surgical waiting area on the 3rd floor. In the elevator, 1,000 thoughts competed for attention. Why had they taken my car? Where were they going in such a hurry? What would I say to them? Did I even want to see them at all? The surgical waiting room was more subdued than the emergency department, with hushed conversations and the occasional sob breaking the silence. A doctor in scrubs approached as soon as I gave my name to the receptionist. "Mr. Kingsley, I am Dr. Lisa Andrews, the trauma surgeon overseeing your brother's care. He is currently in surgery. He has 2 broken legs, internal bleeding, and possible spinal injuries. We will know more in a few hours, but I want to be clear, his condition is serious." I nodded, trying to absorb this information. "And Jessica Taylor?" "She was the passenger. She is in more stable condition. Facial lacerations, a concussion, and a broken wrist. She is conscious and in a private room. Given that you are not a family member, I cannot share more details without her consent." As if on cue, an older couple burst into the waiting room looking frantic. The woman spotted me and her expression hardened. "You," she spat, marching toward me with her husband trailing behind. "This is your fault." I recognized Jessica's parents from photos she had shown me, though we had never met in person. They lived in California and had planned to visit for the wedding. "Mrs. Taylor, I understand you are upset, but I was not in the car. I did not even know they had taken it. If you had not driven Jessica away, she would not have been with that young man at all." Her voice rose, drawing attention from others in the waiting room. "Your obsession with work, your constant traveling." She told us everything. I doubted Jessica had told them everything, like how she had been cheating on me with my brother. But arguing with a distraught mother would accomplish nothing. "I am sorry this happened," I said sincerely. "I hope Jessica recovers quickly." I retreated to a corner of the waiting room, trying to process everything. After about an hour, a hospital administrator approached me with a clipboard. "Mr. Kingsley, I need to discuss financial matters regarding the patients." This was the beginning of a nightmare I had not anticipated. Since Adam had been driving my car without permission, my insurance company was refusing to cover the medical expenses. Jessica had basic health insurance through her company, but it would not cover all the specialized treatment she needed. Adam had the bare minimum insurance provided to Secure Shield employees, nowhere near enough for the extensive surgeries and rehabilitation he faced. The administrator presented me with estimated costs over $200,000 for Adam's immediate surgeries and ICU care, with more to come during his recovery. Jessica's bills were approaching $150,000. These figures did not include rehabilitation follow-up surgeries or medication. To complicate matters further, the police investigation revealed that Adam had been driving recklessly, possibly racing another vehicle. His blood alcohol level was below the legal limit, but he had been cited for speeding and dangerous driving. This could lead to criminal charges and would certainly impact any insurance claims. Local media had gotten wind that the CEO of Secure Shield was involved in the accident, and reporters were already calling the hospital and my office for statements. My PR director had managed to hold them off with vague comments about privacy and ongoing investigations, but the story was too juicy to ignore for long. As I sat in that sterile waiting room surrounded by the beeping of machines and the antiseptic smell of hospital disinfectant, the full weight of the situation settled on me. Two people who had betrayed me in the most personal way were now physically broken, financially destitute, and legally vulnerable. And somehow I was the one everyone expected to fix it all. Adam came out of surgery 8 hours later. The doctor described the procedure as successful, but emphasized that he had a long, difficult recovery ahead. He would remain in the ICU for at least a week, followed by another 2 weeks in the hospital, if all went well. After that, he would need extensive physical therapy and possibly more surgeries. When I was finally allowed to see him the next morning, I barely recognized my brother. Tubes and wires connected him to various machines. Both legs were elevated and encased in complex metal braces. His face was swollen and bruised with a breathing tube down his throat. The confident, smirking man from the Four Seasons was gone, replaced by this broken figure in a hospital bed. Despite everything, my heart ached for him. This was still my little brother, the boy I had protected growing up. I stood by his bed for several minutes, not speaking, just watching the mechanical rise and fall of his chest. 3 days later, the breathing tube was removed, and Adam was awake enough for visitors. When I entered his room, his eyes immediately welled with tears. "Phoenix," he croaked, his voice raw from the tube. "You came." "Of course I came. You are my brother." He reached for my hand, his grip weak. "I am so sorry. The accident. It made me see everything clearly. What I did to you was unforgivable." I remained silent, unsure if this was genuine remorse or another manipulation. Adam had always been skilled at appearing contrite when it served his purposes. Jess and I. It was a mistake from the start. I was jealous of what you had. Your success, your relationship, everything. I wanted to prove I could take it from you. Tears streamed down his face, and now look at me. The doctors say I might never walk normally again. Why did you take my car that day? You knew I had the keys back. Adam looked away. We were going to leave town. Jessica and I had a fight about money. I told her you would never help us after what we did. She said I did not know how to handle you. That she could convince you to forgive us if we just talked to you right. I was drunk and angry. I knew about the spare key. We were headed to your office when I lost control on that curve. The story made a twisted kind of sense. Jessica had always been confident in her ability to manage people, including me. She probably believed she could manipulate me into financial support despite the betrayal. Do you remember when I broke my arm climbing that tree in the backyard? Adam continued, his voice taking on a nostalgic quality. You carried me 3 blocks to the emergency room because Mom and Dad were both working. You told me everything would be okay, that you would always take care of me. I recognized the strategy. Adam was invoking our shared childhood, trying to trigger my protective instincts. The manipulation was transparent, yet still effective. Part of me still felt responsible for him despite everything. The hospital administrator wants to talk to you about the bills, Adam said, his tone shifting to urgency. The insurance company denied everything because I was not authorized to drive your car. The doctors say I will need more surgeries, specialized equipment. Phoenix. I cannot afford any of this. And there it was. The real reason for the tears and apologies. Adam needed money, and lots of it. I have to think about this, Adam. This is not a simple situation. I know I do not deserve your help, he whispered. But I swear I will pay back every penny. I will work for you for free if I have to. Please, Phoenix. I have nobody else. I left his room with the promise to consider my options. As I walked toward the elevator, my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Phoenix, it is Jessica. We need to talk privately. Room 412. Against my better judgment, I found myself heading to Jessica's room. She looked better than Adam, though her face was covered in small cuts from the shattered windshield. Her left arm was in a cast, and dark bruises marked her visible skin. Thank you for coming, she said as I entered. I was not sure you would. What do you want, Jessica? I wanted to explain. What happened between Adam and me? It was a mistake. He pursued me for months. I was weak, confused. You were always so focused on the company. I cut her off. I am not interested in excuses or revisionist history. You made your choices. I know. She looked down at her hands. But Phoenix, Adam is not who you think he island. Even before the accident, he was talking about leaving me. He only wanted me because I was yours. Once he had me, he started looking elsewhere. Why are you telling me this? Her eyes met mine, calculating. Because I still care about you. I made a terrible mistake, but I never stopped loving you. Adam will use you for money, and then discard you again. That is who he island. I almost laughed at the transparency of her attempt. And what do you propose instead? Help me with my medical bills. Not Adam's, just mine. I will leave him and go back to California once I am better. You will never have to see either of us again. So you are offering to leave my brother if I pay your hospital bills. That is your pitch. She had the decency to look embarrassed. It sounds terrible when you put it like that. It sounds terrible because it is terrible, Jessica. Before I could say more, my phone rang. It was my assistant informing me that Adam and Jessica's parents were in the hospital lobby, demanding to speak with me. My day was about to get even more complicated. Adam's parents had flown in from Florida as soon as they heard about the accident. Unlike Jessica's parents, they had been a rare presence in our lives, growing up too busy working to pay much attention to their sons. In recent years, they had become more involved, especially after my business success offered financial stability they had never achieved. Their approach was different from the Taylors' angry accusations. Instead, they emphasized family loyalty, repeating the phrase "blood is thicker than water," as if it justified overlooking any transgression. "He is your brother, Phoenix," my father insisted. "Family stands together no matter what." "Even when that family betrays you," I countered. "Even when they steal from you and lie to you." "People make mistakes," my mother said, patting my arm. "Adam has always looked up to you even when he acts otherwise. He needs you now more than ever." The hospital administrators were becoming more insistent about financial arrangements. Without a commitment to cover the mounting bills, both Adam and Jessica would receive only the legally required minimum care, their rehabilitation options severely limited. They painted grim pictures of Adam, confined to a wheelchair, permanently of Jessica's face, scarred beyond repair without specialized treatment. Meanwhile, Adam continued his emotional campaign. Each time I visited, he would reminisce about our childhood, express deep remorse for his actions, and make grandiose promises about repayment and redemption. His performance was skilled, hitting all the right emotional notes. I recognized the manipulation but found myself affected nonetheless. Jessica took a different approach, sending daily text messages that alternated between apologies, explanations, and subtle reminders of our happier moments together. She repeatedly offered to tell me everything about Adam if I would just help her, implying there were even worse betrayals I did not know about. The pressure was relentless. Hospital staff looked to me expectantly whenever I appeared. Family members called constantly with updates and implied requests. Friends offered conflicting advice, some urging forgiveness, and others encouraging me to walk away completely. At work, my focus suffered. The Singapore deal was progressing but required attention I struggled to provide. My executive team stepped up admirably, but questions about my personal situation created unavoidable distractions. The company's image consultant warned that public perception could turn negative if it appeared I was abandoning my injured brother regardless of the circumstances. I consulted with lawyers about my financial obligations. Since Adam had taken the car without permission, I was not legally responsible for his medical bills. However, he could potentially claim that my previous permission to use the vehicle extended to this incident, leading to a messy legal battle neither of us could afford. After a particularly exhausting day of hospital visits and financial discussions, I drove to my mountain cabin 2 hours outside Seattle. I needed space to think away from the emotional manipulation and constant pressure. In the quiet of the forest, with only the sound of wind in the trees, I hoped to find clarity about what to do next. The cabin had always been my sanctuary, a place to decompress when the pressures of running a company became overwhelming. Now it served as a retreat from personal chaos. For 3 days I hiked in the surrounding woods, chopped firewood, and sat for hours on the porch watching the changing light on the mountains. I did not check emails or answer calls except for brief check-ins with my executive team. When I returned to Seattle, my first stop was not the hospital, but the office of Dr. Sarah Winters, a therapist recommended by William. I had always prided myself on handling problems independently, but this situation had pushed me beyond my emotional capacity. "What you are experiencing is betrayal trauma," Dr. Winters explained during our first session. "The two people you trusted most violated that trust in a profound way. Now they are attempting to use your compassionate nature against you. This creates a complex emotional conflict." Over the next few weeks, our sessions helped me understand patterns I had never recognized. I had been Adam's enabler for years, solving his problems, and shielding him from consequences. This had not helped him grow. It had stunted his development and reinforced his belief that he could behave irresponsibly without repercussions. Through conversations with mutual friends and some careful investigation, I discovered that Adam and Jessica's affair had been going on for at least 6 months. Not the spontaneous connection they had claimed. They had been meeting in hotel rooms while I was traveling for business using my credit cards to finance their rendezvous. The betrayal was more calculated and extensive than I had initially realized. This was not Adam's first significant betrayal either. A college friend reluctantly revealed that Adam had attempted to seduce his girlfriend years ago, causing a rift in their friendship. A former colleague mentioned Adam taking credit for my ideas during his brief stint at another tech company. The pattern was clear and long-standing. While processing these painful revelations, I reconnected with James, a friend from my university days who now ran a successful investment firm. Unlike many people in my life, James had no connection to Adam or Jessica, offering a perspective unclouded by divided loyalties. "You cannot set yourself on fire to keep others warm," he said over dinner at a quiet restaurant far from the hospital, "especially when they are the ones who burned you in the first place." Through James, I met Eliza, a corporate attorney, specializing in family business disputes. Her professional experience with family conflicts gave her unique insight into my situation. "Family relationships create emotional blinders," she explained. "You need to approach this as you would a business decision. What are your objectives? What are the costs and benefits of each option? What boundaries would a fair and reasonable agreement include?" Her pragmatic questions helped me move beyond the swirl of emotions to more structured thinking. I began researching healthy boundaries and enablement, reading books about family systems and manipulation tactics. I learned about the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation, how one could release anger without restoring a relationship to its previous state. Physical renewal became part of my healing process as well. I started running each morning, pushing myself until my muscles burned and sweat dripped from my face. The exhaustion was cleansing, allowing me brief respite from the constant thoughts of betrayal. I learned simple meditation techniques to center myself before hospital visits, providing emotional armor against Adam's manipulative tactics. I spoke with my business mentor, Richard, a 70-year-old entrepreneur who had navigated his own family conflicts while building his company. He shared wisdom from his experience, emphasizing the importance of clear communication and firm boundaries. "You can help without being exploited," he said. "But you must define exactly what that help entails and what you expect in return. Write it down. Make it formal. Treat it like any other business arrangement. With each conversation, each therapy session, each quiet moment of reflection, my path forward became clearer. I could not abandon Adam and Jessica entirely. The weight of that decision would haunt me regardless of their actions. But neither could I sacrifice my financial security and emotional well-being for people who had shown such disregard for my feelings. I worked with my therapist to prepare for a final conversation with Adam and Jessica. We role-played various scenarios, anticipating emotional manipulation and practicing calm, firm responses. I drafted a document outlining exactly what support I was willing to provide and under what conditions. My lawyer reviewed the terms, ensuring they were fair, but protected my interests. After 6 weeks of hospital stays, surgeries, and beginning stages of rehabilitation, both Adam and Jessica were stable enough for a serious conversation. The time for a resolution had come. I scheduled a meeting with both of them present, along with the hospital financial administrator and my lawyer. I entered that meeting not as a victim seeking revenge, nor as an enabler ready to be exploited, but as a man who had found his balance and was prepared to offer a fair solution that respected everyone's needs, including my own. The hospital conference room felt too small for the emotional weight it contained. Adam sat in a wheelchair, both legs still immobilized in complex braces. Jessica occupied a regular chair, her arm in a lighter cast than before the cuts on her face, healing but still visible. Their parents had wanted to attend, but I had insisted this meeting include only the directly involved parties along with my lawyer and the hospital financial advisor. I placed a folder of documents on the table and remained standing, a deliberate choice to establish the tone. Everyone looked expectantly at me, tension evident in their postures. I have spent weeks considering the situation from all angles. I began, keeping my voice calm and neutral. I have consulted with financial advisors, legal counsel, and medical experts about the best path forward. Today, I am presenting my decision regarding financial support for your medical expenses and ongoing care. Adam immediately started to speak, but I held up my hand. Please let me finish. You will have time to respond afterward. I outlined my offer clearly. I would pay 50% of their current medical bills and 50% of essential rehabilitation costs for 1 year. The payments would go directly to the medical providers, not to Adam or Jessica personally. In exchange, they would sign a legally binding repayment agreement with monthly installments, beginning 6 months after Adam was cleared to work again. Additionally, I continued, I have established a separate fund for necessary adaptive equipment and home modifications Adam may require. This money will be administered by a third-party trustee to ensure it is used appropriately. Jessica looked disappointed, clearly having hoped for more comprehensive support without strings attached. Adam's expression was more complex, a mixture of relief and calculation as he mentally assessed what more he might extract. As for our personal relationships, I said, turning to face them directly, I want to be very clear about my boundaries moving forward. Adam, you are my brother, and that will never change. But our relationship must change. I will not be your financial safety net or emergency bailout option anymore. You are 30 years old, and it is time for you to take full responsibility for your choices. I removed a small velvet box from my pocket and placed it in front of Jessica. Inside was her engagement ring, which she had left behind when she moved out. Jessica, our romantic relationship is over. There is no possibility of reconciliation. This belongs to you, to do with as you see fit. She took the box with trembling fingers, tears welling in her eyes. Whether they were tears of genuine regret or disappointment at the loss of financial security, I could not tell. The hospital financial advisor reviewed the payment terms, confirming that my contribution would prevent their accounts from going to collections, while still requiring them to take significant responsibility. My lawyer explained the repayment contract, emphasizing that defaulting would result in legal consequences. Why not cover everything? Adam finally asked, his voice smaller than I had ever heard it. You can afford it. Why make us struggle when you have more than enough? This is not about what I can afford, I replied. This is about what is fair and what is healthy for all of us. Completely bailing you out would only continue a pattern that has damaged our relationship for years. And, if we refuse to sign, Jessica challenged, a flash of her old manipulative self showing through. My lawyer responded before I could. Then you will be fully responsible for all medical expenses with no contribution from Phoenix. The choice is entirely yours. In the end, they both signed the agreements. Adam with resigned acceptance, Jessica with barely contained resentment. As the meeting concluded, I felt neither triumph nor anger, just a calm certainty that I had made the right decision for everyone involved. In the following weeks, I established clear boundaries with my family as well. I explained to my parents that while I would always be there for genuine emergencies, I would no longer enable Adam's irresponsible behavior. They resisted at first, falling back on emotional appeals about family obligation, but gradually came to understand my position. Jessica's parents took her back to California once she was stable enough to travel. From mutual friends, I heard she had found a job at a smaller marketing firm and was living in her parents' guest house while recovering. Adam and Jessica's relationship had dissolved almost immediately after the accident, each blaming the other for their predicament. The media interest in the story eventually faded, especially after my company released a brief, dignified statement acknowledging the accident while requesting privacy for all involved. The Singapore deal was successfully completed, expanding SecureShield's reach into the Asian market as I had hoped. 6 months later, my life had transformed in ways I could never have predicted. Adam had completed his initial rehabilitation and was living in a ground-floor apartment modified for his needs. He still used crutches but could walk short distances unassisted. True to my word, I had covered half of his essential medical expenses but no more. To his credit, he had found remote work as a customer service representative and had made his first small repayment on schedule. Our relationship remained distant but civil. We spoke occasionally by phone and had shared one awkward dinner at our parents' house. The easy trust and affection of our earlier years was gone, replaced by a cautious formal interaction. Perhaps in time something healthier would grow in its place. I had applied the lessons from this painful experience to other areas of my life. At work, I delegated more responsibility to my capable team, creating space for personal interests I had neglected for years. I established clearer boundaries with friends and colleagues, no longer allowing myself to be the universal problem solver. The most unexpected change came through my friendship with Eliza. What had begun as professional advice evolved into coffee meetings, then dinners, then weekend hikes. Unlike my whirlwind romance with Jessica, this relationship developed slowly, built on honest communication and mutual respect. We were still in the early stages, but for the first time since the betrayal, I found myself genuinely excited about the possibility of trusting someone again. The true meaning of karma, I came to understand, was not about vengeance or punishment. It was the natural consequence of actions and choices, the inevitable balancing of scales. Adam and Jessica had not suffered because some cosmic force sought revenge on my behalf. They had simply reaped what they had sown, experiencing the natural outcomes of their selfish decisions. I had learned that forgiveness did not require reconciliation. I could release my anger and resentment toward Adam and Jessica without allowing them back into positions where they could hurt me again. This distinction freed me from both bitterness and vulnerability. Most importantly, I had discovered that integrity was its own reward. By responding to betrayal with fairness, rather than vengeance or unlimited generosity, I had maintained my values and self-respect. I had broken the cycle of enablement that had defined my relationship with Adam for too long, offering him the opportunity for genuine growth through accountability. As I sit on the balcony of my penthouse watching the sunset paint the Seattle skyline in shades of gold and pink, I reflect on how far I have come. The pain has not disappeared entirely, but it no longer defines me. I am not simply Phoenix, the betrayed fiancé, or Phoenix, the exploited brother. I am Phoenix, the resilient Phoenix, the fair Phoenix, the whole. Have you ever faced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did you find the balance between compassion and self-protection? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that healing is possible after betrayal. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And remember, sometimes the most important boundaries are the ones we set for ourselves.